The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday edition, and yes, for those of you on the Twitch pitch, we will have video shortly. Of course, I'm running late this morning, and then when anything goes wrong, John's computer wants to rebel against the system. So John Nelson will be joining us here shortly, and we'll have some video for those of you on the Twitch pitch. Thanks for being patient. We'll talk about how all that happened in just a bit. We've got a lot of things to get into today. There were a couple of very, very important things that happened yesterday in the game. Don Garber gave his State of the League address in Major League Soccer, and I think he gave you some insights into how challenging of a year it was this year, what the challenges could look like next year, and how MLS is trying to navigate that. We'll get into all of that today. We'll get into what happened in Paris yesterday, as we're still getting, I think, updated information as we go about the Istanbul Başakşehir match with PSG that was stopped early in the first half due to an incident involving the fourth official. We'll give you what we know on that here shortly as well. Other Champions League matches, lots of interesting stories yesterday. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has to be in some trouble in Manchester with a horrendous defensive performance from Manchester United early on. They did not look like a team that was ready to, one, fight for their manager, and two, to actually advance in the Champions League. Now, they did put up a fight in the second half. That's wonderful. It looked awful early on. We've got to talk about what happened at Millwall yesterday. Maybe a little bit of redemption there. There was not the incidents that maybe people were a little worried about, a repeat of what we saw over the weekend. Lots of stuff. And we'll be taking your questions, and Mike Conti will be joining us at 10 o'clock, and maybe John will join us here at some point if he can get his computer up and running. So I want to start with the biggest story of the day yesterday, and it was in Paris. I thought Micah Richards on the CBS postgame show gave you a really strong, well-thought-out take on this. And look, I can't even assume or try to put myself in the shoes and be able to give you an expert opinion of what it's like to be black in this game. Micah Richards, I thought, gave you the most well-rounded take on it. There's really nothing to add to that. What I would say is, do I know that the fourth official, and there's even some back and forth reporting that it could have been the AR who used the word negru, which in Romanian is black. It's literally black. You can look it up and it comes up on, any language learning program that you're looking for, and it's not treated as a derogatory term. We know it can be used in that way. Was it used in that way in this case? I don't know. I'm not in that official's head. But what I do know is that identifying a person in that role, you're identifying somebody who you feel like should be sent off. That is what happened here. And whether it's the fourth or the AR, it's the same situation. You are identifying them by the color they are. That is a dumb thing to do because it can be taken in a variety of ways. There are many other ways to identify somebody. There's even reports now that the red card could be rescinded, and I don't know why that would be the case, because the red card wasn't given for a racial reason, according to even what we heard, and there's a lot of audio on this. The red card was given because of the behavior of an assistant coach on the bench. So to identify that person to the referee, either the fourth official or the AR, and we had thought it was the fourth official all day. There's some reports out of Romania that it was the AR instead. Either way, they're identifying that person by the color of their skin, and that is never going to be acceptable. Demba Ba, honestly, nailed it in the moment. You wouldn't do that if it was, a white guy. So don't even go there. Don't even bring that up. the accusations of racism are difficult because we don't know if that's the case. And even from the audio that we've heard, we don't know if that's the case. The fact that he used the person's skin color to identify that person brought all of this to the floor. And he has to be punished, sanctioned, what have you, from a refereeing perspective because the referee blew the game up. That's how it kind of went down. UEFA is going to investigate this. Now, look, a lot of people have jumped to a lot of conclusions. That's why I feel like what Micah Richards said yesterday was very, very important to hear. It's not okay to do what the fourth official or the AR, depending on who it was, did. I don't think it's okay because of how it can be interpreted. But I don't know if it's racist. And I don't know if anybody can truly know that. And I think saying that is jumping to a conclusion a bit. What Demba Ba said is correct. You wouldn't do this for somebody else, and that needs to be the standard going forward for referees. Walk over to the person and say, this guy, him, he said something, he needs to be sent off. That's it. That's it. You know, we're talking about a player, a Cameroonian international, Wehu, the assistant manager, who's played in World Cups. You know, if the AR or the fourth official didn't know who he was, that's fine. Didn't know his name, that's fine. Don't identify him that way. Walk over and say, it's this guy. He said stuff. He needs to be sent off. That's it. That's it. It's very simple to deal with. By not doing that, the referee that was involved in this, the AR or the fourth, blew the game up, and they're going to have to be punished for it. Second, the referee handled it very poorly. Now, the referee's trying to come in and figure out what happened because a member of his team blew the game up. But you got to figure that out at that point. The referee didn't handle it well. So, absolute comedy of errors here by this referee crew, and Istanbul Başakşehir walks off. Now, remember, the assistant heard this, and you saw his reaction. Others near the bench area heard it. You saw their reactions. Players out on the field got it secondhand. Istanbul Başakşehir players wanted to walk off. Without knowing what was going on, I give Kylian Mbappe a ton of credit because all of the reporting that is there backs up that he led PSG off to follow them. They didn't try to stay on the field. They didn't try to get a 3-0 win. They didn't try to do any of that stuff. They said, okay, you guys have a problem with this? We've heard what you guys have a problem with. Okay, we back you 100%. That's a big statement for the game, and that's big going forward. Now, what has to happen now, and this is what it sounds like is going to go forward, you have a new referee crew. They couldn't replace, if it was the fourth, if it was the AR. It sounded like they were talking about the fourth yesterday, but now the Romanian media is trying to say it was the AR. They didn't have anybody to replace them with yesterday. So they're bringing in a whole new crew for today's, not replay, because they're picking up where the game left off. That's the best UEFA can do here. They have to do the investigation. They're going to have to be very clear in how they come out and report this, because I don't know if they're going to be able to prove racism here. Because I would assume that the referee crew is not going to admit to it, and what happened doesn't really give us that necessarily. But they have to make it clear that that's not okay. You can't back the referee crew here by identifying a person by the color of their skin. That can't be accepted going forward. And this needs to be an educational point for referees around the world. Don't point players out that way. Don't do it. Because it can be construed as racism. And that's not to protect the person who's saying it. This is to not have anybody feel like they're being racially abused. Period. This is not rocket science, people. And I think it's trying to be turned into a million different things. Don't identify somebody just by their skin color in a situation, because you didn't have to. I hope they fix it. I hope this referee crew is handled correctly. I hope that things move forward the right way. I am very happy with the way both teams handled this. Very, very happy with why both teams how both teams handled this. All right. John Nelson says he is ready to go. We're going to try to get him on and get his takes. It is not Mateo's fault. It's kind of my fault, and then it's kind of John's fault. And we'll get an update here right about now, as you guys can hear us trying to connect to John Nelson. Thank you, Skype, for allowing us to do these connections. We are very indebted to you. And maybe John's going to answer the phone now. Or the computer.
God,
welcome, everybody.
America.
Yeah, we're on, John, so be careful about what you say there, buddy.
Yeah.
So, before we talk about our problems, which are not significant in the grand scheme of things, I talked about what we knew and what we saw in Paris yesterday. Basically, I think Micah Richards had maybe one of the best explanations of everything from his perspective after the match on CBS. Anything else you want to add? I mean, you didn't hear what I said, but anything you want to add about that situation?
Well, I think that the biggest thing, as I'm fighting the lawn guys already this morning, I think that when it comes to the officiating crew, there were 9,000 different ways that you could have pointed out the individual that you had an issue with. And in looking back at some of the other timelines with some of the other writers, it got into the history of these officials and this crew. And I'll leave that for everybody to read if they want.
Hold up. The way you're bringing that up is insinuating that they have racist issues in their past.
That is not what I'm insinuating.
Then be very clear, because that was never the case. I don't want that just left out there.
No, that's never the case, and that's not what I'm bringing up.
Well, then there's nothing to tell you to go look at. The only thing that was said by a Romanian reporter was that this fourth official has had some personal issues in the past. Nothing to do with racism, nothing to do with abusing other players, but he's had some personal issues of his own, mental health issues, it sounds like.
Right, and there were also some parts describing issues with how he officiated things in the past within the league,
sure,
and how he was thought of within the league by those who followed the league. That
sure,
was
I mean,
what I was getting.
Bad referees are bad referees. This has nothing to do with his refereeing ability.
No. But I think that when you look at yesterday, first and foremost, I give PSG and Kylian Mbappe an amazing amount of credit for wanting to walk off with Istanbul Başakşehir and standing up for your opponent in this case. And that, to me, was one of the first things that popped into my head. Was I give them a boatload of credit for standing up and walking off as one, not just standing around waiting for something to happen one way or the other. It's like, nope, we saw this happened to our opponent. We don't stand for it. We're walking. And I give PSG a boatload of credit as a club for doing that and being right there and standing with Başakşehir and their fellow athletes in this case. And that was the first and foremost. That was first and foremost for me, what stuck out in the incident yesterday. But I'm going to use the word disappointing that we still have events like this in our game. And I hope that yesterday and today, since the match is finishing today, I hope it's another lesson that we all can file away about making the game better.
Yeah, but John, I don't think it rises to this level, and maybe I'm wrong here. I don't think it's about issues in the game and all this. I think it is a referee being insensitive to describing a player. We don't know if the referee's racist.
Right.
I'm not putting that tag on them.
Okay.
But we heard what they said.
I'm with you.
But
with you there.
But that's why I'm saying I don't think this is like all these other issues in the game. I think this is a very isolated issue, and I think it is, as much as anything, about proper referee training
Yes.
and sensitivity training.
Yes.
And understanding what to do this. I don't want to put it in that conversation. I think people jumped to that yesterday, and I thought they were jumping too far too fast. There were a lot of comments from people yesterday that kind of surprised me once you even had video here.
Yeah.
There's nothing to show definitively that the fourth official or AR, whoever said whatever, there's nothing to show that they did something in a racist manner outside of describing somebody by the color of their skin. It wasn't derogatory. Now, I can understand how it could be possibly construed that way if you're hearing it secondhand, or you are that person and you're being described that way.
Right.
But we don't know that that was the intent. It's more about, to me, the sensitivity of it than comparing it to fans in the stands racially abusing and chanting at players, stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is not in that realm, and I don't want to put it there because I don't think that's right. It's not about the game as a whole. It's about referee education here in this case for me.
Right.
Because I think at times we lump everything into this big, giant tent, and we don't actually deal with the incident. I mean, and this happens with fans saying, horribly stupid, offensive, nasty things. It's like, okay, we got to fix the game. Now you got to fix those people.
Yes.
You got to fix those people in that culture. Like, get down to it. That's why when we've had these conversations come up, it's about mandating education for those people. It's about mandating things that they have to do to be allowed back in the stadium. Here, it's about mandating for referees. Don't do this.
Yeah.
There's a million different ways to describe the player or handle it. Don't do this. The referee himself has to handle the situation better.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because this is difficult, I don't know how much he knew and when he knew it, and then he's getting yelled at. He wasn't involved in the initial thing. He's got to back his crew up, but he's also got to fix the situation that his crew created. It's difficult, but they have to be trained. Referees have to learn from this. Bartimus Prime, and this is a far better way of saying it than I think either one of us have, about what Micah Richards said. He said it was ignorant rather than racist. And that is the perfect description of it, because we don't know if there was racial abuse intent, but it is absolutely ignorant to do what that referee did.
No doubt.
But I feel like it's a very important distinction, because this is not what happened with Millwall fans booing players taking a knee.
Right.
This is not what's happened in other countries where players have been abused by fans. This is not what happened on the field in USL Championship. This is not that, and we can't put it in that box. This is this, and this needs to be handled.
We don't know what was in that referee's heart in this situation. And I think that Bart puts it best.
Micah Richards put it that way. Bart just clarified the language there, which was the right way to do it.
Yeah, but no, we don't know what was in that. We don't know what was in that gentleman's heart. We don't know what was in any of those folks' heart going into this situation.
Yeah.
And so
Abby says ignorance is not an excuse, which it's not, but it also doesn't mean that it was said with ill intent, and that does need to be understood here.
Right.
It is a very dumb thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the referee who did it, the member of the referee crew who did it, affected everything that happened afterwards.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah. The education has to be key here. And Bart says I don't think they should work an international match again. That could absolutely be part of what happens forward. I don't know. I don't know the crew. I don't know their standing. I don't know where they are in terms of level and all that. There has to be education, not just for that referee crew, but all referees. Anybody who referees has to understand that what happened here should not happen. And you have to be forward-thinking and not allowing it to happen in your games going forward.
Yeah, I think I remembered somewhere reading that this was the fourth official's last European match. I think that he had been pulled from the UEFA lineups after this group stage was over, so this was his last European match.
Allegedly, yeah. I don't know if that's true or not. There was a lot of things being thrown around yesterday, and that's why you got to kind of be careful a little bit and jump into conclusions. We will hear more about this for sure. It is a big story. It is also a big opportunity to learn from. And the one thing that I take out of it more than anything is the fact that Kylian Mbappe stood up and said, our opponents feel like something was done wrong to them. They want to leave the field because of something that was said that they do not approve of and do not feel comfortable with. We back them 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it differed from what happened in the USL Championship. That's where it differed from other situations we've seen. That is a massive step forward, and it is a massive amount of credit to Kylian Mbappe for doing the right thing and being a leader in this situation. That's what I take out of it.
Yeah.
They went back to sort out what happened. They tried to come up with solutions, it sounds like. They were not able to. They postponed the rest of the game till today. This will be talked about again today with everything going on. I'm sure we'll hear more about it. We'll keep you posted in these things. Absolutely, Ricky. I mean, you can't take... and I don't think that's how Micah was saying it. I'm going to read Ricky's comment real quick, and then we'll move on.
Okay, sure.
Ricky says, even though I mostly agree with Micah, we can't in those situations take one person's immediate opinion and determine that's the main way we see it. He didn't have all the information either. I appreciate Micah commenting on it because as a black person, you are going inevitably to find yourself in a situation where you have to comment on something in the realm of racism and ignorance, and people will take that as truth versus your truth. Totally agree. Totally agree. And Bernd, I'm not saying it's cool what he did either. I think that shouldn't be mixed up, but I'm going to make that clear. The referee screwed up. I said the referee blew up. The referee that was involved blew up the game, and the referee did this. There's no question about it. We don't know if it was racially intended outside of using it as a descriptor, which cannot be done. I will say that again, over and over again, just to make it clear. What the referee did was wrong. What the referee and I'm saying the referee that's a member of the crew, we're pretty sure it's the fourth.
Right.
What the fourth did is wrong. What that person did was wrong. There is no way around it. There's no way to fix that. There's nothing else that's good about it. It was wrong. That has to be dealt with. That's it. I think jumping to the conclusion that it was derogatory is really difficult to do because of all we've heard is it was a descriptor of a person,
right,
which is wrong. But we don't know if it was derogatory. I don't have a problem with anything that happened past that. At all. I don't have a problem with Başakşehir leaving the field. I think Demba Ba nailed it with what he said to the fourth. I think Başakşehir had every right to leave the field. I think PSG did the right thing by following him. There's nothing right in what happened with the referee part. What PSG did was right. What Başakşehir did was right. That's how I feel about it. And I'm totally with you, Ricky. And we probably were zoning in a little bit too much on what Micah said. But I thought Micah was very fair in saying this from what he knew. And he made it clear he didn't have all the information either. None of us do.
Yeah.
So I thought he handled it very well. And he can't speak for everybody. But I think for a lot of people, that's a very important thing to hear. And yes, Ricky, I'm with you. Hopefully there's an investigation, which UEFA has already started, and you get to the bottom of it. I want it to be... let me rephrase. You have to figure out what happened with this referee crew. You need all the conversation. You need all that. You need if there's any more context to it. Absolutely. But I don't want this to just be isolated to this referee crew. Every referee needs to see that happen and say, we can't have that happen. Every referee in the world needs to see that and understand how that blew up a Champions League game and created this incident. And they need to understand that is not how you move forward. Every referee has to learn from this. It doesn't need to be isolated just to this referee crew. Let's see if they said more than we heard. That's part of the conversation here. But the other part is referees need to improve and be very careful. Ragamuffin says, why did the coach get a red? And we don't know. We don't know. I don't know why it's being discussed as being rescinded. And if that happens, then you wonder more about the referee crew and why they gave the red in the first place. But we don't know. The red had nothing to do with the walk-off, from what we saw. It was the way the person was described, the assistant coach for Başakşehir, that led to the walk-off. We don't know what they did for the referee to be called over to show a red card. It sounds like, just from context, there was a hard foul in the game, and there was complaints about the decision made on the field. And we don't know what they said. So this is where we're at. The play through it mentality's got to go. And that's why I think what Mbappe and PSG did is really important. I'm sure there will be more that comes out from this. I hope that Ricky burned, I think, anything that I said that could have been misconstrued. I hope that I clarified it. If there's still a question, please let me know, because this type of stuff drives me nuts. It's very frustrating. I've coached teams that have been predominantly black or Latino, and I've dealt with things said, and these were youth teams. One was an adult team. I've dealt with things that were said from referees after a match. I've dealt with things that were said from parents, dealt with things that happened in situations. And I don't feel the way my players did, but it really, really upsets me, and I want to see this stuff eradicated from the game. I think sometimes, though, when we lump everything into a big tent, we don't actually deal with the issue. And that's why I wanted to clarify, even, John, what you were saying, too, about It's not just we need to get this out of the game. This is not everything else. This is very specific. Let's get this out of the game. Referees, do not describe a player by their skin color, or a coach, or anybody that you are trying to indicate did something that has to be yellow carded, red carded, whatever. There are plenty of ways to describe that person not using their skin color. Don't do it. That's it. PSG did not win by forfeit because the game's being replayed today, Christopher Abel. It's being picked up from where it left off. And no, PSG walked off. And that's why we've seen this happen in other cases, and I'm really glad about what PSG did. They didn't try to benefit from the situation. They supported the opposition. They did not do what Phoenix did in the USL Championship and stayed on the field and took a forfeit. And Phoenix should be looking at themselves in the mirror even harder after this, because this was a Champions League match. This was a game where PSG gets the result they go through. This was a game with a whole lot on the line, and PSG and Kylian Mbappe, who led the way, did the right thing here. So this was not even what Phoenix got the number one seed in the Western Conference for, getting a forfeit when one of their players abused a player from San Diego. Homophobic slurs. So, oh, man. I do want to get this stuff out of the way in the game, but we have to nail down each one and be specific on it. So, that's it. That's what we know so far. There will be plenty more. If anything else pops up during the show, we will keep you posted for sure. We're going to get into MLS stuff with Mike Conti at 10 o'clock. Lots to talk about. Don Garber said a lot of important things yesterday that I think give you an idea of where MLS is heading into 2021. And it's like a lot of professional sports leagues and clubs. They lost a lot of money, and there's a lot of unknown about what the next season looks like. We'll dig into some of that with Mike. Let's get into the rest of Champions League and what we have coming up today. Barcelona is still trying to figure out how to defend. Barcelona is an absolute shambles right now. Barca's such a joke at this point in the way that they are approaching games. And it's probably the best thing for Ronald Koeman that there's not a president at the club, because I don't know if he'd still be at the club at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
They have been so bad and so shockingly bad in so many different ways. And it's not getting better. Full credit to Weston McKennie with an amazing goal for Juventus. Just a total demolition job here. And, hey, ESPN SportsCenter, you could show the goal by the American player instead of showing penalties and fouls, please. Just saying. You could probably do that. It'd be a good idea.
Yeah. When the rundown of that particular match was put across social media, it's like, okay. So, and Max Bretos on Twitter had mentioned that he had been trying to get soccer on Sports Center in various ways for 9 years. And it came down to the education, not enough producers, not enough individuals, not enough folks under the tent that get the sport and understand its context. And so this was an opportunity missed by Sports Center to showcase American talent instead of going for the low-hanging fruit of Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah, it's absolutely an opportunity missed. They have the rights to U.S. men's national team games. And when you have an opportunity to show, somebody that you paid money to show their games, you should probably show that. You should probably include that part. And the point that I made on Twitter last night was if this was in Mexico, and let's take Juventus out and let's put Napoli in, if Chucky Lozano scores that, and they focus on Messi or they focus on some other big superstar, and they don't show the Chucky Lozano goal, it's a riot in the street. People are going to be very, very angry about this. Well, we should be angry too. It's unacceptable. Yes, it's good they showed the highlights. That's good. That's a step in the right direction. But you have a highlight to show. It's a bad editorial decision.
Yes.
It's just, you have a limited amount of time. I get it. You're going to show 2 penalties and 2 fouls instead of a beautiful goal from the run of play. That doesn't make sense no matter who scored it.
No.
When it's an American who scored it, you have to show it. You have to show that, and it's just very disappointing they didn't. We'll talk more about Barcelona, I'm sure, as we go over the rest of the week. It's to the point that there are reports in Spain that Bayern could be coming in trying to sign Frankie de Jong because Barcelona needs money so bad. Barcelona got him ahead of Bayern last year, £65 million, and now there's reports in Spain that Bayern could be sitting back and saying, well, they need some cash. We'll come in and get it. Okay, Manchester United, they were horrible. The defense was horrible. It's not good enough. No width defensively. Ole talking about Mino Raiola and the Paul Pogba situation. Pogba came in. Pogba played very well. Solskjaer said, the squad is fine. They're a team. They stick together. As soon as Paul's agent realizes this is a team sport and we work together, the better. And that's maybe the last thing I'll say on that. What we speak about in the background is something I'm not going to talk about Paul's agent anymore. He shouldn't have talked about it here. He should have either made the stand or not addressed it, period. Made the stand and not playing Pogba. Pogba came in and played well, so at least that's good. But did it unstable? Did it destabilize the team? I don't know. I think there's a safe assumption that it did because they started horribly.
Yes.
Horribly in a game where all he needed was a draw. That's on Ole, too. And I've backed Ole. I've felt like a lot of the criticism of him has been unfair because it just feels like a soap opera drama. But we've got multiple incidents now in the Champions League where Ole had a hand in it one way or another, and they're not going on in the Champions League. They're going to the Europa League. I don't think he survives the year. I don't know how long he survives. I think a lot of it depends on the coaching carousel and what happens with everything else. Today, let's get into the games today. Now, Group D, Liverpool, Midtjylland, meaningless, doesn't matter. The other game's really weird now. Ajax is hosting Atalanta. There was lots of chatter last night in Italy, and it's starting to get reported widely in Italy, that there could be a just complete collapse of everything behind the scenes at Atalanta. Gianpiero Gasparini and the squad, it feels like things have broken down. There was an incident on the field with a tactical instruction being given to Papu Gomez. He disagreed with it. Gomez ended up being suspended. That has reportedly lingered on, and now there's some reports that there was an issue, potentially physical, between them. These are all reports at this stage. There's reportedly leaked audio of this stuff. I mean, it's bonkers. To the point that Gasparini, according to some reports, could resign after the match. Others say he could leave in January. Others say it's not just Papu Gomez. It could be Ilicic as well that is involved in this. wait and see that lineup today, because there's talk that Gomez and Ilicic could be in the stands. They are with the team, but they could be not part of the squad today. There's talk that Gasparini could be the one that they would like to have stay and move the players on. That's what some are saying. I don't think that's going to happen. Some are saying that Gasparini tried to resign, and the club said, no, we're not taking it right now. I mean, this is bonkers, and it hasn't been covered a lot in English yet, so stay tuned on it. It is a big subplot for that game with Ajax today. Now, Ajax has to win at home. Atalanta can get through with a draw. They don't play well for a draw. Have the numbers changed at all overnight?
Yes, they have. Ajax is down to a plus 110. Atalanta is up to a plus 216. Your draw is now north of plus 300.
How much have they changed? Do you know?
Ajax yesterday, I want to say, was in the 130s. The draw was south of plus 300, so it's about 20 points that it looks like it's changed.
That's significant. Just keep your ear to the ground on that stuff. Group A, Bayern's hosting Lokomotiv. Bayern's won the group. Lokomotiv could get into further play in Europe. Not likely. Alphonso Davies should be back in the squad, which is good news for our Canadian friends. The game in Group A is Red Bull Salzburg hosting Atleti. Best defense in Europe versus one of the best offenses in Europe. Atleti should go through. This is the stronger team in the situation. But it would be a massive feather in the cap for Jesse Marsch if he can get Red Bull Salzburg to win at home and jump Atleti into the knockout rounds. I don't think it's going to happen. What are the numbers saying on it?
Numbers have gone closer to even money for Atletico Madrid. It was around plus 116 to 120 yesterday. It's now at plus 108. And for Salzburg right now, they're at a plus 245. Your draw is a plus 270.
I think Atleti gets it done.
Yeah,
because they all they need is a draw, and they do play well for draws. So
yes.
I think Atleti will handle it. The other big story today, Zinedine Zidane's future could be in flux as Real Madrid hosts Borussia Mönchengladbach. It's essentially a playoff game to get in. They're in third place right now. Shakhtar's in second. Shakhtar is going to Milan to face Inter. Inter will be missing some folks who are out due to injury. Nicolo Barella and Arturo Vidal are both out. Christian Eriksen could stop listening to Depeche Mode and actually join the game for once. I mean, he's just usually been embarrassed by being put in stoppage time by Antonio Conte. He might actually need him here. We'll see how that goes. Sergio Ramos is back for Real Madrid. They did not do well without him. They were 2-2-1. Real Madrid is the only team to never fail to qualify for the knockout round. They are 28 of 28. Do they get it done at home against Mönchengladbach?
Numbers, Real Madrid minus 152. That has increased a little bit day to day. Mönchengladbach is now well north of plus 400. They're at a plus 430. Your draw is about plus 310. I think they do. It won't be pretty. Of course, everything we've seen recently from Real Madrid hasn't been pretty, so it would be true to form. It's going to be a grinder. It wouldn't surprise me if Borussia Mönchengladbach scored first and Real Madrid had to score two in the most CONCACAF-y fashion imaginable, even though we're not talking about CONCACAF. My guess is it's 1-1 and then something happens incredibly late, like with 10 minutes to go in the 80th, that tilts it toward Real Madrid. So Real Madrid 2-1. It's going to take a while. It's going to be interesting television for the soap opera of it. It may not be an interesting match.
Well, no, I think it'll be a very interesting match. It might not be an entertaining match for the social media pundits who might be very upset. It'll have drama because you'll be looking for Florentino Perez and anybody else from Real Madrid standing over Zinedine Zidane's shoulder if things don't go well.
Yep.
Mönchengladbach's leading the group with 8. Shakhtar's on 7. Real Madrid's on 7. But Shakhtar's got the head-to-head over Real Madrid. So What's the Inter Shakhtar numbers real quick?
Inter minus 370, Shakhtar plus 910. Your draws are plus 550.
Whew.
You thinking a parlay?
I'm trying to think of how this group finishes more than anything. Shakhtar did win in Madrid.
Awful goal difference, though.
Goal difference doesn't really matter when it comes to Madrid for them because they've got the head-to-head.
Yeah.
Goal difference would not help them against Mönchengladbach, but it'd be weird if they finished on the same number of points anyway. And they can't finish on the same number of points. Well, they could with Inter, but that could get... No, actually, they could not if Shakhtar gets anything positive. So the goal difference doesn't really matter for Shakhtar. Throw that out.
Okay.
Johannes is going 2-1 for Gladbach. I'm leaning more draw there. I just don't know if Real Madrid can get a win. I don't know if they can get it done. That would put Mönchengladbach on 9, Madrid on 8. Then Shakhtar's got to get a result against Inter. I actually think they can. And I'm leaning to draws in both. I'll parlay 2 draws. Okay. I'll put a giant pack of candy canes on draws in both.
Okay. Yeah, I could see a draw with Shakhtar and Inter, and Shakhtar is continuing to increase in the aggregate. By the way, as we're having this discussion,
that's what happens. We move the needle.
So I want to see how much range there is with Inter and Shakhtar. Wow. Okay.
What?
It is wildly all over the place. You can get a plus 1,000 with Shakhtar depending on your venue. Seriously, this is anywhere from plus 750 to plus 1,000 on Shakhtar to win.
Maybe it's because I just have no faith in Inter at this point. Maybe I'm being unfair to Antonio Conte and his beautiful hair.
Yes.
I'm going draws in both, but if I can get that kind of number, because I don't know if sad Christian Eriksen can come in and get the job done, I will also take some peppermint bark and throw it on a Shakhtar upset win. How about that?
Yeah. And one of the bookmakers that's attached to the composite has now pulled the game off the board.
What's going on there? Is there weird stuff happening, or is it moving too much?
I think it's moving too much.
Okay, we'll keep it. We'll come back to that one. Mark that down. We'll come back to that and see where things stand. 1 point from Burned that is important in Group A that you do have to keep in mind depending on how the score lines go. Red Bull Salzburg could get into a position where they have to make sure they maintain a draw because they have a 1 point lead on Lokomotiv Moscow. Red Bull Salzburg wants to get into the next round of the Champions League, of course, because that's a lot more money. They can't afford to miss out on the Europa League. If Lokomotiv is losing to Bayern, Red Bull Salzburg can be more aggressive. If Lokomotiv pulls a surprise and is getting a point against Bayern, Red Bull Salzburg can't afford to lose. That's another subplot here, and that's something you have to keep in mind depending on the scoreboard watching late in those games. If Bayern's handling business, Red Bull Salzburg can be more aggressive. If they are not, and Lokomotiv is going to get anything out of that game, Salzburg has to be very careful not to lose the Europa League spot. They can't afford, like literally financially, they can't afford to miss out on the Europa League. So that will impact tactics at some point in it. Just to be fair to everybody here, Liverpool and Midtjylland, what are the numbers there? Okay, if you wanted to get something for Midtjylland?
I'm looking at circuit breakers and the Real Madrid Borussia Mönchengladbach match has also pulled a circuit breaker with 2 separate bookmakers. They've stopped their numbers and they've pulled the game off the board. Midtjylland at plus 286 at home, Liverpool a minus 110. Your draws a plus 295.
Liverpool's going to be fine. Even if they play their U17s, they're going to be fine. Okay.
But everything out of this group with the bookmakers is getting weird.
Interesting. The Atalanta one's the other one I'm curious to see because I want to see if those stories continue to blow up more and more on Gasparini, because that's pretty baffling with all of this happening. I mean, it's getting reported now more by very credible people. Siavush Falahi, who is with Eurosport, has now given an update on it. And this is kind of where things stand at Atalanta. So, against Midtjylland, Gomez got subbed off at halftime. He was said to have gotten into a fight with Gasparini. Ilicic defended Gomez, and Gasparini reportedly resigned after the game. That was last week. Club didn't accept it. He's still there. Gasparini's mad because he feels like the club should have backed him up more. Now they got to go to Ajax, and it's possible, it's being reported in Italy, that Papu Gomez doesn't start, or he does start. He doesn't start because he got into a fight with the coach. He does start because they all know they have to get through and get into the knockout rounds. So, okay, that could get weird. And then going forward, they might start him here because they have to have him, and then they might not start him after that because they're angry with him.
Yes.
Gasparini could leave in January. Players could leave in January. This feels like...
We're mad at you now, but we need you to start today, and we'll be still mad at you after the fact, and we'll take care of our business after this result.
It feels like the Atalanta greatness is falling apart. That's what it feels like is happening. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's the big one to watch, the drama in the lineup phase of the day. The other two to watch drama-wise is Real Madrid, that whole situation, and then the group that could go any which way, any single which way. This is going to be a fun watch today. There's more drama on the line here than I remember in a while in the final match day. So this is going to be good stuff. Why don't you, before we get to Mike, why don't you go ahead and thank our good friend Steve Apolinsky right about now?
I could do that. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one phone call, one email, one reaching out across the void that you need to do, and it's to Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. His hand touching your hand, that's what you need to do. A couple different ways that you can do it. You can shoot an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com, or get a free consultation by giving them a phone call at 404-377-9191, or do it through the virtual divide. Go on to your favorite web browser of choice. Hopefully it behaves better than yours, than mine did with me this morning. And what you can do is you can go large device or small to aa-legal.com in your bar. Hit enter, hit return, hit advance, hit your arrow key, whatever gets you from one place to the next. A pop-up window pops up because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365, and someone on the other end of that pop-up window will answer your very questions about wrongful death and serious injury matters. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients for wrongful death and serious injury matters. There's only one face that needs to take up the space. It's Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
Are you trying to steal either John Cena or AJ Styles' thing about the face that runs the place?
AJ Styles.
You're trying to steal AJ Styles' line?
Yes, that's exactly where I was going.
Okay, just checking. Okay. Before we move on, to fully explain why we started a little bit late this morning on the audio side, the people on the Twitch pitch knew what was going on, at least to some degree. It's time to order more groceries. I'm out of breakfast stuff. So I was like, man, all right, I need to get something for breakfast. I need to eat. I need to be ready to go to talk about all this stuff today. Yep. A little bit before 8 o'clock, ordered Chick-fil-A. It's awesome to be able to order Chick-fil-A, by the way. That's pretty sweet.
I saw that's what you were drinking.
Yes, it's pretty sweet to be able to order Chick-fil-A for breakfast. I love it. They're on like Uber Eats, and they're on DoorDash. I think those are the only two that they're on. Okay, so usually I order through Uber Eats for Chick-fil-A. For some reason this morning I went through DoorDash, and it took them forever to get from like 2.5 miles away for Chick-fil-A to get here. I ordered with plenty of time. Of course, it arrives like maybe 5 till 9. No, maybe even later than that. I think it was later than that. I want to say it was like 8:57. So it gets here. I get everything sorted out. I message John on Skype. I'm like, give me a couple minutes. I got to scarf down some food.
Go for it.
All right,
I was catching up on Toma. I was reaching on Griezmann, talking about his team not showing up, and Ronaldo and Messi. So
yes, John's busy doing that. I scarfed down I went for a different direction this time. I went bagel with chicken, egg, and cheese, which was really good.
Yeah. Never
had that before. Got a frozen coffee. I'm like, okay, cool. All's good. Let's go. Click John. Nothing. Nothing.
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope.
Keep calling.
Nope.
Nothing. Because what happened?
I blame Norton again.
Why is Norton still messing with you?
I don't know, man. It just, and the thing is that it wasn't the only thing that happened this morning. While I'm trying to get the computer reoriented so I can see you, it answered the phone great, but it didn't turn the engine over to where I could see you. I had to restart the desktop because the desktop wasn't responding to anything. So it might even be the hard line coming into the house that has caused all of this angst this morning.
No, that doesn't. That's not how anything works, John. Like that really.
Why not?
No. Sometimes when you start talking technology, it's a little embarrassing. The hard line from the internet.
Here, and I'm thinking plausible explanation.
No, it's not a plausible explanation. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Guys, how are you? I'm trying a speakerphone today. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay, excellent.
You sound fine. We're complaining about our mistakes this morning. I made a mistake in ordering breakfast from DoorDash, and I thought I had plenty of buffer time, and I didn't. And then John's whole computer system crashed. It was good times.
You know, I hate it when that happens, when you do like an Uber Eats or a Grubhub or a DoorDash or something like that. They tell you it's going to be 35 minutes, and you look at the clock, and you're like, yeah, that could work. And then 35 minutes turns into an hour.
Yep.
And, they're knocking on your door in the middle of the segment. It happens to me all the time, right?
I was just like, come on. So knew it was going to happen. Once it got past like the 30 minutes, I'm like, yeah, it's going to arrive like 3 minutes before we go on. Yeah. I already know this is coming.
It never works out the way you want it to.
No, I thought I had buffered enough time. I did not. John's whole computer system is run by hamsters, it sounds like, and they went on strike this morning.
Are they off the picket line now, or is it just you and I, Jason?
They are off the picket line. Allegedly.
But there seems to be some serious negotiating going on between the hamsters and the computers, Mike.
Yeah, and that's always been a very contentious relationship. So
especially at Office HD, brother, you ain't lying.
I don't know if that's going to get resolved today or not, but I certainly hope it will.
All right, we got a lot of MLS stuff, and we've been holding this off for you. We're going to talk U.S. men's national team a little bit later, too, because they actually have a match tonight, which is crazy. Yeah. You can almost forget that because it's not an international window, but they're playing El Salvador. Let's start with maybe the easier thing to update on, and it's not easy because it's DC United's coaching search. And we've had 3 different people who follow everything with DC or follow the league report, and there's some overlap and there's some maybe disagreement. First, last night, Dylan Butler, who writes for MLSsoccer.com, sent out a tweet updating that Gonzalo Pineda, the Seattle Sounders assistant, was now the front runner for the DC job after contract talks broke down with Chris Armas. Well, then Pablo Maurer of The Athletic updated at a little after 11 o'clock last night. Armas is not out of the running. He hasn't walked away. The club is serious about Pineda, but the interview process has been complicated because Seattle's still playing. And Ezra Hendrickson is no longer a candidate. He hasn't been a candidate for days. Now, Stephen Goff this morning has said about Pablo's tweet, all of this is spot on. It's down to 4 candidates, including Armas and Pineda. Unsure of the other 2. Hendrickson was told last week he's no longer in the running. There's no imminent decision, according to Goff. Decision would come sometime in December. I'm wondering if the blowback from the DC fan base about Armas has had anything to do with any of this.
Yeah, I mean, it could, and it could also be an indication, possibly, I mean, we don't know, but possibly that DC is lapsing into DC things where, they aren't necessarily the most eager to spend a lot of money on anything. And maybe that's an indication, I don't know, but reading between the lines of Ezra's tweet, I mean, he makes it sound like there might have been an insurmountable disagreement on something contractually. And usually when that happens, it has to do with salary.
Could be.
So, Jason, it could absolutely be what you said. It could be negative blowback from fans. I think we've said several times, I've used the comparison that this would be like the Falcons hiring Sean Payton. It wouldn't be met very warmly by a lot of Falcons fans. I know that. I think other Falcons fans would like it because Sean Payton's a winner, but that's beside the point. It sounds to me that's more of a salary thing than anything else, but you could absolutely be right, Jason.
So then let me take it one step further with Pineda. And the maybe possible thought pattern involving Brian Schmetzer and the contract that hasn't been added to, renewed, signed, to continue Schmetzer's term and levels of success in Seattle.
Uh-huh.
If you're Seattle and you see Pineda getting all of this attention, do you continue to try and make it as nice for him in Seattle as possible? Do you try to keep him under the tent now because of what may happen with Schmetzer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know much about Pineda. I would probably have to defer to you guys on him. I don't know if he's like just a Schmetzer lifer, like in the same way that Orlando Trust Falls, a Frank DeBoer lifer. They're just always kind of linked together. Or if Pineda, I mean, I'm guessing if Pineda interviewed with DC, he must have some ambition to be a head coach.
Yeah, he's not a lifer. He's not an assistant in that situation because Schmetzer was that in Seattle, and then he got the job. Pineda joined the staff in January of 2017. He had played for Seattle his last, I think, 2 years of play. He played 2 years, 14 and 15 with Seattle, retired at the beginning of 2016, did some work with Univision, then joined Seattle's staff at the beginning of 2017. So pretty new as an assistant.
Yeah, and I want to be careful how I phrase this because I'm not anti-assistant coaches getting promoted to the big chair at all. However, if that Seattle job becomes open, that becomes, assuming the rumors are true about Atlanta, Seattle becomes the best available job in this league, if those rumors are true. How would their fans feel if they went and promoted an assistant as opposed to going out and getting a guy with head coaching experience, maybe from somewhere else around the world? I don't know if that's the type of hire that Seattle would want to make. So I don't know. And then, you mentioned the fact that he played there and he's been there for a while. That kind of changes the emotion of it as well. So I'm not sure. I think, John, you bring up a very valid possibility. I just think Seattle, if they're going to let Schmetzer walk, they better have something pretty big in mind. And I don't know if promoting Pineda is necessarily going to fit that.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really gotten the pulse of the Seattle fan base on this one to see if they're demanding they keep Schmetzer. I think there's a lot of love for Schmetzer. Go ahead.
You know what I'll do, Jason?
What?
You know what I'll do? You remember my buddy Jason, who I went to high school with?
Yes.
We hung out in Seattle. He's been texting me a lot during the Sounders playoff run. So between now and stoppage time,
there you go.
And I'll see what he has to say because he's about as well informed and tapped in as a Sounders fan as anyone. So I'll see if I can find out anything from him.
All right. The other thing that factors in, let me ask you two questions. Question came up on the Twitch pitch that I think is a good one for the DC comparison. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Chris Armas to DC thing has a little bit of the Greg Schiano to Tennessee thing?
Oh no! Well, I hope not.
Well, not exactly what happened, but just the whole idea of the blowback from the fan base.
Yeah. It could. It absolutely could. Again, I can't mentally put myself in those shoes because I've never really had anything like that happen to me in my personal fandom before. Again, if I'm a DC fan, and this is where it becomes a little bit hard to separate emotion from reality. If I'm a DC fan, more than anything else, I want to win. I want to be competitive again. I want to be making the playoffs again. I want to be a threat to go to the Cup final again. We're a charter member of this league, and we haven't been very good for a while, save for when Wayne Rooney came in and gave us a little bit of a lightning strike. So I want to win. Of the four candidates that they're talking to, I mean, I guess we know the identities of three. I don't know.
Two.
We don't know the fourth, right?
We know two.
Is Hendrickson the third?
He is not considered going forward. He has been ruled out.
Okay. But Ezra Hendrickson's been linked. Pat Noonan has been linked.
Yep.
Chad Ashton has been linked.
Sounds like Ashton is not part of the four either. That hasn't been officially said since they've got it down to four, but the reporting earlier was that he was no longer being considered either. Nothing has been said about Noonan in a while, so he could still be part of it.
Well, and again, my point is these are just names that have been reported. Even if they aren't in the Final Four, these are the caliber of names that have been linked to this opening, even if they haven't graduated to the Final Four. Mm-hmm. Jill Ellis is another. Yeah. If I'm a DC fan and that's the list in front of me, Chris Armas gives us the best chance to win, in my opinion. So I want to win. I mean, at a certain point, you've got to kind of swallow hard and understand that, it stinks and you're going to associate him with your biggest rival, but he's working for me now. And let's take the report from D-Led, again, at an NFL comparison. The Falcons are reportedly talking to Terry Fontenot of the New Orleans Saints about their general manager opening. That would feel kind of weird, maybe a little icky at first, but at some point he's working for you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's different though.
But I think that GMs, they're not as out in front of the microphones as much as a head coach is. I think that Fontenot might be a different vibe as a GM, and a GM would be a different vibe than bringing in a head coach of your rival.
Yeah, great point. I guess it's a little different maybe in the National Hockey League where the general manager really clearly is above the head coach and everything and has more of a front-facing role. Not so much necessarily in the NFL or really even in MLS with technical directors and sporting directors. So that's true. I come back to I want to win. Mm-hmm. Chris Armas is a good coach.
I agree. I totally agree.
He mismanaged the 2018 Eastern Conference Final, but he's a good coach. Honestly, there were times where I thought maybe Chris Armas would be the U.S. men's national team coach. He's a good coach. So I want to win, and I get it. And I'm not saying DC fans are wrong for the way that they would potentially feel if what you're describing is the case, Jason. But again, I want to go with the guy who gives me the best chance to win. And again, I'm just throwing out names that have been linked to the job. We don't know if they're in the Final Four. But if it's a decision between Chris Armas, Pat Noonan, Jill Ellis, and Chad Ashton,
I'm going Armas.
I'm absolutely going Armas.
See, I'm not necessarily. This is where I'll disagree with you guys, because if we were talking about, let's take a step back. Let's say that Jesse Marsh doesn't go to Europe, and it's Jesse Marsh after what he did with those other people. Then yes, I'm with you. Chris Armas hasn't done a whole lot. He's been good to a degree. He hasn't done enough to overcome the rivalry issue for me. Like, you brought up Sean Payton before, Mike, and that's a different conversation. We're talking about a guy who's won a Super Bowl. We're talking about a guy who's won. I can't stand him, But yes, that's one where you might swallow it because he's won before. He's
so this
one
is like
of the
Derek
best.
Dooley?
Whatever average run-of-the-mill person from a rival. I mean, you can come up with a million of them from college football, I'm sure. But to get over the hump with coming from a rival, you better be a proven winner. And I don't think Armas is that. I would rather go with an assistant expecting that they could end up being better than Armas than have to deal with dragging around the rivalry side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally fair. And that's probably my bad a little bit. I probably give Armas more credit for 2018 than he deserves.
He does get. I think you give him a lot, and I don't think others give him enough.
Uh-huh.
So no, I'm with you. He's good. It's just I don't, and I think the problem is the reaction's already there. So I mean, you can argue, is it right or wrong? It's real, like it exists. So
okay, let's go back to the Greg Schiano thing for a second.
Yeah,
because that's a really, really good point. And what happened to Greg Schiano was gross. I mean, he was the victim of a media organized hatchet job organized by Clay Travis, where they accused him of being a part of what happened at Penn State with the Sandusky thing when Schiano wasn't even there for any of that. I mean, it was just awful. It was just absolutely awful.
Yep.
Tennessee is about to fire another head coach. I wonder if you were to ask Vols fans now if they feel like maybe they had gotten that one wrong. Perhaps they would. And that's just what I would say. Like, I think if you're a DC fan, you've got to be. If you're a DC fan who's anti-Armas because of his Red Bull ties, I think you have to be a little bit careful because who could you potentially get that would be a better option?
I would go Pineda.
You really think?
I would take the chance on Pineda being. Learning from Schmetzer, learning from his time as a player. I like his pedigree. It's unknown because he hasn't been a first choice guy before, but also money's going to factor into this, and he would be a cost effective potential home run.
True. Yeah.
I don't know what the ceiling is for Armas. I think the ceiling is completely unknown for Pineda. It could be better than Armas. It might be less. But the reason why I look at the money side, Armas would command more money, I think. I mean, just judging from experience, I think he would ask for more. Let's go to something else that's popped up this morning. The Mauro Manotas transfer out of Houston to Xolos.
Right.
This had been talked about before, but Luis Ortiz of Telemundo in Houston has an update, and he says, from my conversation with Mauro today, this was yesterday, he posted this last night, that the team seems to have sold him due to the financial losses caused by the pandemic. He said the transfer came out of nowhere and it happened fast. He said he wanted to stay. Maybe Manotas is saying the right things here to be nice. I don't know, but I've got a feeling when you look at that, you look at not getting a deal done with Schmetzer yet. You look at Toronto and Vanny, even though Vanny ended up saying no and walking, that lingered on for a long time. I think teams are going to have to start making some difficult decisions. And maybe they take some chances on assistants because they're going to come at a cheaper price tag.
That is a great point. That so perfectly stated. And not every club is in the same boat financially.
No, they're not.
Right.
So that is a really, really, really good point. Toronto, their owner has the income stream from the Raptors in the same way that Arthur has the income stream from the Falcons.
The entire province of Ontario linked to MLSE.
Right. So, exactly. So, it's different. A club like DC that stands alone, that was pretty frugal to begin with. I mean, I think we're connecting some dots here. I'll go back to the initial report that things with Armas broke down in the contractual talks. I mean, that to me screams that they were not on the same page money-wise, and DC might not be able to meet that price. So then perhaps they do have to go and look at an assistant coach. Absolutely.
So let's go into some of the things that Don Garber talked about yesterday.
By the way,
yeah.
My invitation to that must have been misplaced or went to my junk folder.
Really? I got it.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know.
Oh, man. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I only cover the league 365 days.
That's not good.
Small issue, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to the majority of it.
I mean, I got the gist of it from your tweets, so it's okay.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was trying to share a few and catch up just a couple. I mean, nothing groundbreaking. It was kind of what I would expect. There were a lot of questions about what 21 looks like and financials. And Turner Kirby had a question, and I wanted you to start with it, Mike. Turner said, "Can the league?"
By the way, Turner, congratulations!
Yes,
yes,
achievement over the weekend. Nice going.
Congrats, Turner. So Turner asked, "Can the league survive another full season with partial or no fans in some areas? Places like California have provided guidelines to get to 25% capacity at the highest tier, but nothing about how to get more." Garber said, the $1 billion number that he had mentioned at the beginning of all of this was pretty accurate and might not even cover all of it because of the increased expenses of doing business this year. It's a balance. They want to start at the normal time. They also want to get people in the building. They don't know when that will be. I thought he explained that really well. Like, it's not like there's a magic date that everything's going to be okay. Nobody knows. So, what are the factors with that you're looking at as we get closer to what a schedule, what a calendar looks like for 21 and the challenges the league's facing right now?
Yeah, I think the schedule will be piecemeal. I think that would be wise for the league.
Yeah.
I think the league will probably be looking at and let me stop and just say, I don't think we'll even get a schedule. I know Garber had said early to mid-March to start the season. And if that's true, and that feels aggressive to me, but if that's true, I wouldn't be shocked if you didn't see a schedule until mid-February. And I think what they're going to be looking at, guys, is by early to mid-February, which states and which local municipalities are going to be willing to allow at least a large fraction, if not full capacity attendance at venues. That, to me, points to Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Nashville, the Texas teams getting a lot of home games early. Within reason. I mean, they're not going to give Atlanta 10 straight home games to start the season.
No.
But I think they are going to be looking at, all right, teams in California, especially, I mean, San Jose, at this point, it looks like they might even have to leave Santa Clara County. Teams in California, teams in Pennsylvania, which just went back into lockdown today, so Philadelphia again, teams in New York, teams in the Northeast where states have locked down pretty tight. We are going to be very, very conservative in the number of home fixtures that we're going to give them in phase one of the schedule. And I also wouldn't be surprised if you saw scheduling pods again.
Yeah.
That's been put on the
isolating
table.
the Canadian teams like they started out last year.
At least at first, yeah. And I think even more than that, I think you could see some scheduling pods involving Northeastern teams that could take trains to games to eliminate your charter flight costs. Like, there are ways where you can do this and be creative. And I think in another month or two, God willing, if this vaccine rollout goes as they say it will hopefully go, I think in a month or two, you're going to have a pretty good idea of, okay, you know what, by July 1st, we're going to be in good shape. Or in June 1st, we're going to be in good shape. So I would imagine the league did a really good job this year of taking things one day at a time, not putting things in pen too far in advance, and being really, really flexible with scheduling to maximize the little that you could in getting people into stadiums and having some match day revenue in some places. They're going to have to do that again early in the 2021 season. I don't think you're going to have a lot of match compression in March, April, and May. I mean, quite honestly, guys, I think you're looking to get to the June break with maybe everyone playing 6 to 8 matches. And then, you're going to be cramming in 24 to 26 over the course of, 4 or 5 months. But you can push back the MLS Cup final to December again if you have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the idea. I think the idea is going to be, we will give Miami and Orlando and Dallas and Houston and Austin a lot of home fixtures early because we know they're going to have the green light to have fans, potentially Atlanta, potentially Nashville, potentially Kansas City. They've been in a pretty flexible state as far as, potentially having spectators. I just named 7 or 8 teams right there. If you can get to 14 or 15, you can balance the schedule. So that I know that was rambling. I'm sorry.
No, that makes sense.
No, it's workshopping the whole thing, and that's what.
Same thing with Canada too. If Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver play round robin 8 or 9 matches in March, April, and May, that's no problem. And then hopefully you get to June where the borders open and you can play a normalized schedule the rest of the way. That's what I think is going to happen. And that's probably the best possible way. To address Turner's question, if it's a full 2021 season with no fans anywhere, no, I don't think some clubs are going to make it. I just don't. Your single entity ownership will probably help a little.
Yeah, see, I think they will, but I think there's going to be some that have to really cut back. Because I think the single entity means everybody will make it.
Yes.
Because I don't think they'll let anybody fail one way or another. But do some clubs get harmed severely because of it? Yeah. I just don't see any other way.
Well, everyone's been harmed. That's the thing, though. I mean, everyone's been harmed severely already. We just don't know about all of it.
Yeah, maybe not severely. It depends on how you want to define it.
The league office just laid off 20%.
That's
that's draconian.
Yeah. That's the most severe, sure, for sure.
But I mean, are we to assume that that's happened at the club level too?
We haven't heard it. I think we would have. That's why I pushed back on that, just because we haven't heard of massive cuts at club levels. We have at the league office so far. That's what they've done to manage it.
I hope you're right. But again, I think there's a way. I mean, if we are feeling confident that by the third quarter of 2021, and that's something that even Fauci has said, by like the third quarter of 2021, as enough people get vaccinated, we'll be in a much better place than we're in right now. I think you're trying to get to the third quarter of 2021. Now, some people have said, why wouldn't Garber just delay the start of the season beyond March? I think you've got 2 things in play. You've got to be really, really careful about your match compression beyond July 1st. You cannot try to play 34 matches between, say, June 15th and November 15th. You just can't. It's way too much. You still have your international breaks, which are going to have to occur, especially if you're going to have an Olympics and World Cup qualifying, and all that stuff appears to be happening in 2021. You've got to be so careful about the match compression. And number 2, you have national TV partners that you need to make whole. That's a huge right now source of your league revenue. Mm-hmm. That and sponsorships, because you're not getting gate revenue. So if your national TV partners are telling you, hey, we need content in March and April, guess what? The league's going to have to develop content in March and April.
Yep.
I mean, and Mike, when it comes to scheduling, I think that the workshopping that we're doing in this segment is what the league and the individual franchises are going to have to do, and just kind of think things through here to what's the best for survival for everyone. And even if it comes down to something like what we saw this past week in college football, this is an extreme example, but when you get Coastal and BYU on 48 hours notice sitting there saying, yeah, you got a date, okay, let's play. It's that kind of flexibility to get your schedule figured out that I think the league and everyone's going to have to understand, whether you're a fan of the league, whether you work for the league, whether you work for an individual team, flexibility in 2021 is going to have to be just as key as it was in 2020 in getting everything squared away.
Yeah, and again, this is where I think the players and the clubs really deserve a lot of credit for getting the league to the finish line this year. And they're going to make it. They're going to get there on Saturday. There were a lot of people who cover this league who were saying in June that they should not try. And they tried, and it was a bumpy road, and there were setbacks with Dallas and Nashville and Colorado. But they got there, and it's because the players mostly did what they were supposed to do, and the clubs did what they were supposed to do, and they got there. And they got there safely for the most part. A lot of people who profess to be experts on how to run sports in a pandemic were proven wrong by that. So credit to the league. But you're right. Everyone's going to have to be flexible in 2021. I think everyone knows that's the reality. I hate to use the "we're all in this together" phrase because it's been overused so much, but it really, really is true. And I think the players understand that they have a big responsibility because their actions are going to trickle down to everyone on the club staff and everyone who supports them. So everyone's going to make an honest try. Everyone's going to make a really honest try. And I think it'll work out. I really do. I'm optimistic. I think we learned a lot when teams went into home markets in August. And again, outside of Colorado, we never really had a big problem. So I'm optimistic that they're going to find a way to pull it off in 21.
Yeah, I think they will. Let's be clear. It will not look like it did in 19 in terms of a schedule format. I just don't see any way.
No.
In terms of a calendar, it won't look like that. But it will look closer to that than 20 did. And I think, honestly, when you look at the next couple of years for MLS, depending on how 21 goes and if they have to push things back to have a December MLS Cup again, 22 could be funky because you can't push it back. You've got to be done earlier because of the World Cup.
Yep.
These next 2 years are going to be, you're going to need a little creativity to get through them and to get through them and maximize everything the most. 23 will be where I think we look like whatever normal is, and it might not be what it was in 2019. It might look different.
Crazy, because that'll be the first year of the new media deal.
Yeah.
I think you're going to the momentum seems to be more ties between MLS and Liga MX. Not a full merger of the league, let me be clear. But
I don't think so, yeah.
But more ties.
Yeah.
21 won't look like 19. 23 really won't look like 19.
We'll talk more about this today on Stoppage Time because we'll have a little more time to kind of workshop and figure things out and have fun with some speculation and all of that. That's at 2 o'clock on Facebook.com/929 The Game. But before you go, Mike, yesterday was a big anniversary. A bunch of people have asked, what were your kind of reflections looking back at MLS Cup a couple of years ago?
Well, yeah, it's a huge anniversary because the McRib was reintroduced at McDonald's.
Yes!
And that is
Ay,
really
Dios mío.
It doesn't feel like it's been 2 years. It feels like it's been 10.
Yeah.
I think that's just a function of how this year has gone. So it was such a great night. It was such a great year. 2018 was just such a magical year. And I hope that it wasn't taken for granted because you don't have years like that very frequently in professional sports. As dominant as Atlanta United was. But that was a really special night. It was special sharing it with you guys, obviously, and Jarrett was in the booth with us as well. I think it was the payoff for a lot of people put in a lot of hard work in the 4 or 5 years leading up to that night. And I think the one thing I would say is we're going to have nights like that again soon, hopefully. And I think Atlanta United will be contending again soon. I think we'll be having full stadiums again, hopefully soon. I don't know which will happen first. But I don't think Atlanta United's that far away from where they were 2 years ago. I really don't. Even though they had such a lousy year this year in terms of match results. The one thing that was very, very striking to me, watching all the videos. The one video I love watching is the one that Atlanta United's digital team put together, that nonstop access.
Yeah.
That Mikey and Ryan and everyone there put together. It was phenomenally done, beautifully shot.
The amount of work that Mikey said he put into that to get it out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he slept from after the game ending until that was posted the next afternoon.
No, they actually took like a week or two to post that.
Oh, I thought that one came. Okay, they did a shorter one the next day. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But the one thing that really struck me was, wow, this team has changed a lot in 2 years. I mean, a lot of those guys are not on the team anymore, but a lot of them are. And Joseph and Barco and Rometty, sounding more and more like Rometty will be back next year. Guzan, obviously. I mean, I think some people have made it sound like everyone's gone from 2 years ago. No, that's not really the case either. But it's funny to think of it. At the end of that match, I think you had Chris McCann, Michael Parkhurst, Greg Garza, Darlington Nagby, all out there. They're all gone. Bressel, he's gone. So Almirone, although he wasn't out there at the end, obviously, but he's gone. So they've changed a lot. It's been a crazy 2 years. But we'll always have that night. I think we're going to have nights like that again. And honestly, I think going through the adversity that everyone went through this year will make it much, much sweeter if and when Atlanta United gets back there.
It's a good point. I think it will have a different feeling when it happens again because you really didn't have a lot of adversity going into that one at all. It had been a pretty steady rise from game one to winning a cup 2 years later. Now you've had some challenges, and maybe it'll be, I think, cherished in a different way. This will always be special because it was the first one, hopefully the first one of quite a few. The next one, you had to fight harder to get there, I think. So maybe it'll have a little more,
100%.
Feeling to it.
You had to overcome a lot more to get there if you get back than you did in 2018. It almost was too perfect. The 2 years leading up to December 8th of 2018, it almost went too perfectly. It doesn't usually happen that easily.
It's funny, looking back right now on Argentine TV, all they've been talking about all day is the anniversary that was a day later of the Copa Libertadores second leg final of Real Madrid and Boca, and that's all they've been talking about all day. It's like 2 years ago, River did this in Madrid, and it was crazy. So we all do these things. This is what we love about the game, right? We have these things that we look back at that are special, and we want them to happen again, and hopefully that'll happen again for us pretty soon.
Well, it makes me grateful for everyone who made that night possible 2 years ago. It's like I tweeted, that was like one of the top 5 nights of my life. It was so incredibly special. We'll always have the memories of it, but we'll have more memories. I know that, and I'm looking forward to that too.
Can't wait till we hear the roar of the crowd like we did that night. That was pretty special.
Yes, Alan, that's going to be very special. Absolutely.
All right, stoppage time at 2. We'll see you then, man.
All right, guys, take care.
Be good.
See ya.
All right. Questions from you guys on the Twitters, on the Twitch pitch. You can tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can email us, soccerdownhere@gmail. You can join us, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere, and send us your Wall Pass Wednesday questions, because there could be a few. Before we jump into that, there is a U.S. men's national team match tonight. Bart Keeler's got a new piece up at soccerdownhere.net about things he's looking for, maybe some answers we might find in this. It's kind of a weird situation because it is nowhere near a first-choice team, as you would expect. Really interested to see what the lineup could look like. A couple things. We mentioned Weston McKennie. For Manchester City today, Zach Steffen will get his first Champions League start. He will be playing today. So you've got all the stuff going on in Europe, and I know that's going to get all of the attention. But Ayo Akinola will be a player to watch tonight, I think. Sebastian Soto, depending on who gets the start up top, be players to watch. Brendan Aronson has talked about how big of a game this is for him. Walker Zimmerman, I think it's a huge game for him, and Aaron Long, and Mark McKenzie as they push to try to get an opportunity to join the full team. Also, 15 players in this group are Olympic age eligible. So they're pushing to go to the Olympics next year. They're pushing to be able to try to qualify. It's a really interesting match, and I was not excited about it at first. I'm like, there's so much going on. I'm not really into it. As we get close, now I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this. I want to see who steps up.
Yeah, and you mentioned Walker Zimmerman for me. As with the year that he had in Major League Soccer, I'm looking forward to seeing that translate on the national level. Same with Aronson. And you mentioned a couple of guys that, for me, that are a part of it too. And I just, I look at this group and I want to see. I just want to see how they come together. In basically, it's like, all right, you got a couple of practices, couple of days. Here's your group. All right, go out and play. I want to see how well that it get together on short notice. There's guys like Aaron Long that I'm looking at, and the competition we know with Walker Zimmerman coming into play with the guys that are in the European theater right now, and how that's going to integrate through. And so for me, that's what I'm looking at. It's like, okay, we've got this base of players for this match. Then when you see what happened last time out with the guys in the European theater, then you get to see all this stuff blend together. I'm looking forward to the day when we can get that blend of the folks that are above Olympic age and national team stuff, and the guys that are worthy under Olympic age of being national team. So there's a lot of stuff for me in play, and there's a lot of moving parts that I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, I'll be excited about this one, and I'm sure we can coerce Bart into a bit of a recap, or at least a lessons learned piece after this. I'll be curious to see what his take is on it.
Yeah.
Other news today, before we jump into questions and comments, the African Confederation has done something really stupid. They have fined Aubameyang $10,000 for the social media posts during qualifiers for the African Cup of Nations. Remember, Aubameyang was tweeting about how his team, Gabon, had to sleep on the floor in the airport because they weren't allowed out of the airport in Gambia after arriving. There were arguments about COVID testing. He tweeted about that, and he's being fined for tarnishing the honor and image of the Confederation of African Football. Stupid, stupid, stupid. The honor and image was tarnished by making a team sleep in the airport.
Ding.
The CAF should not have allowed Gambia to have that happen. This has been a big talking point in South America with Libertadores, with Sudamericana, with World Cup qualifiers. All of the negotiations that CONMEBOL went through with governments about this exact situation so it wouldn't happen. So, yes, this is on the CAF. They can blame it on Gambia. They can blame it on the Gambian government. They can blame it on whatever. It's on them because they scheduled the game. So, no. The $10,000 fine is an absolute joke.
Yes.
I tweeted it yesterday. Club America had 2 positives out of 56 different people that were tested. That's players, that's staff, that's coaching staff. I don't know if those 2 are part of the staff. Don't know if they're part of the coaching staff. Don't know if they're part of the 25-man roster for the CONCACAF Champions League next week. We don't know that. But they had 2. Cruz Azul had 6. And they actually had a couple players. Jesus Corona, their goalkeeper, wasn't able to play in the match on the weekend because of testing positive. This is not a shock. I'm waiting to see if any of the MLS teams that haven't been playing have any positives. I would expect that they would. I don't know. So keep up with it. It's going to be something to watch, but don't overreact to it. I mean, I've already seen people like, oh, forfeit. No, it's 2 positives out of 56. That's honestly kind of expected these days. Giovanni Dos Santos not on Club America's 25-man roster for CONCACAF. And there's no indication of an injury, so nobody really knows what's going on there. I haven't seen an update. Club America president Santiago Baños said that 2 players who are on the roster will not be part of the roster next season in Mexico. Roger Martinez, who at one point was linked with a move to Miami, and Andres Ibargüen are not going to have a place in the team going into the 21 Clausura. They are going to continue with Miguel Herrera. They said social media noise is social media noise, basically. So they're happy with Herrera. They're going to bring in some new young talent. They're going to move on from Martinez and Ibargüen. If you're an MLS team and you hear that, you might want to look at Martinez and Ibargüen, or they're going to go back to Colombia potentially. Those are two very talented players that I would think MLS teams would be smart to be chasing. One Club America player who teams are chasing is Paul Aguilar. He had been linked to Austin. There were reports that was going to get done. It has not yet. Now it sounds like LAFC is in the mix, and LAFC could have jumped Austin to get this deal done. Raul Ortiz of Fox Deportes is reporting that LAFC is the front runner now. So LAFC, with the moves that they've made all in the last year, now are going to get older at right back than they were before when they let Steven Beitashour go. Let's see if this one actually goes down. One other thing that came, or a couple other things that came out of Don Garber's comments yesterday. The Canadian teams we've talked about, there's no way to know what's going to happen with them yet. Real Salt Lake, MLS will likely take over the sale process of RSL in the next 30 days. Garber said that was very likely they would take that process over. They have to make the decision here soon. That's where it's headed. Also said, and this had come up a while back, it was asked of him yesterday, Orlando City, Flavio da Silva had mentioned he would be open to discussing a sale of his interest. Garber said nothing's imminent and there's nothing going on there at the moment. So that's where it stands at the moment. There were a few other nuggets out of that if you have questions. Nashville will be in the Eastern Conference next year. He didn't commit past that, but he said next year they'll be in the East. No real shock, I think, from what we all saw and thought. With Austin coming in the West, just keep Nashville in the East, especially if you've got a situation where you're going to be doing more regionalized scheduling for next season. There's just no other way around it. The $1 billion loss that Garber mentioned a while back, and there were some maybe side eyes towards that, like how could that really be happening? How is that real? Well, the Bundesliga is saying basically the same thing, that if they don't have fans this season, if they don't have fans back this season, they're looking at having a drop in turnover of $1.21 billion US, €1 billion. 20% less than their last regular season, last normal season, 18-19. So 19-20 in the Bundesliga had a fall of about €250 million because it affected the end of the season. Of course, if you don't have fans in the stands this year, it's going to be an even bigger loss. He said that the loss in 19-20 would seem like a gentle breeze if you don't have fans the rest of the year compared to what you're going to lose this year. That's what Christian Seifert, the chief of the DFL, said. I mean, this is just the business of where we're at. You know, it's you're going to have to figure these things out about seasons and calendars and survival and sustainability. You know, these are all going to be questions, and you're going to see moves starting in January in teams and leagues all over the world that are going to go from growth to survival. You know, Barcelona selling Frankie de Jong, that's not crazy because they might not be able to balance their books without it. MLS teams making sales like Mauro Manotas, they might have to. You know, if they have a managerial vacancy and they go for maybe a less proven person because they can get them at a better price, that might happen too. These are things that are going to happen. There's just no way around it. There are still a few clubs that will spend big because they're able to, and when you have teams that are desperate, there is huge opportunity. There's just no way around it. Couple other nuggets. So you've got the Luis Suarez case still going on in Italy. Prosecutors are accusing Juventus of obstructing the investigation into that. This is all about the Italian language exam for him to get his citizenship. There is a thought that a mole could have warned the Juventus club about the investigation. There's a mole in the prosecutor's office that is giving Juventus information. Reportedly, they gave the answers of the test to Luis Suarez, and he had memorized what he had to say. Basically, I am Luis Suarez. I am from Uruguay. I like to play games on PlayStation. Like, it was stuff like that he said in this test, and it took like 15 minutes. It's not wow about what he said. It's about the fact that it was memorized.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's a language test. It's simple, but it's not wow because he said he likes to play games on PlayStation. It's all memorized stuff because he knew the question.
Stuff is where I'm at.
Yeah. Could Erling Haaland appear in Real Madrid? Well, Mino Raiola's hinting at it. He said, rumors say Real Madrid want him. This is not new to me. But he is very happy with Borussia Dortmund. Erling wants to win the Champions League. When he'll leave the club, it will be for his ambition and not for money.
Right. Says Mino Raiola.
He'll make money wherever he goes. His ambition's not going to cost him money. Let's be real about that. Now you've got a president running for the Barcelona job. This is going to be January 24th. This guy has not been mentioned as much. He did come up very early on in it. He led the motion of the vote of no confidence that led to Bartomeu resigning because he didn't want to get voted out with no confidence, and now set all this in motion. Jordi Fadre y Munoz. Kind of a weird guy. AS described him as an outgoing and eccentric guy. He has presented his candidacy to run for president, and he's making some promises of what he's going to do. First, he wants to keep Lionel Messi. Okay. He says that they can afford to get Neymar because it's worth the investment. Okay, whatever. That feels sketchy. He's going to get people to come and give their support for his candidacy, and he's going to give away pizza and tattoos of the Barcelona logo.
Are they temporary tattoos or are they like legit tattoos?
No, he's going to, if people want to come and pledge their support to his candidacy, he will get them tattooed. If they want a tattoo, then that's hey, and they like him, cool.
Yeah. That'll swing your vote.
He's giving pizza. He's giving pizza and tattoos. It looks like for 3 days as he tries to ramp up support.
Party.
Well, I mean, could be worse, I guess. We'll see how that goes. Millwall, they did not have any problems yesterday. And good on them. They respectfully observed I think it was the QPR players before the game, and then again when they scored, taking a knee. There was no booing heard. Millwall supporters received a printed statement when they arrived at the stadium. The eyes of the world are on this football club tonight, your club, and they want us to fail. It's a little, okay. But just do the right thing. They did it. You have to give Millwall some credit there. They didn't do something stupid like they did last time out. Good. Wigan. There's an application to the EFL for the ownership change, and it is the Leganés owner in Spain, Felipe Moreno, who is now the sole funder of this proposal to take Wigan over. They hope to get an answer this week. We don't know. France. Patrick Vieira has been mentioned for MLS jobs. He might have a possibility to stay in France at Nantes. That has happened. Christian Gorkov was fired. They are in 14th. They're 3 spots behind Nice, where Vieira was fired, but Vieira's name came up about going to Nantes. We'll see. Maybe it makes it a little more complicated for anybody who might be chasing Patrick Vieira. That's what we know so far around the world. What do we know on the Twitters, John?
Oh, well, real quick. I've been checking the circuit breakers in the
circuit breakers, eh?
Those circuit breakers where the bookmakers decided to pull numbers off the board and stop betting for the group of chaos today. Mm-hmm. The circuit breakers have been kicked back on. The numbers have gone back under 1,000 in most places, although we have a new entrant into these.
You probably talk about what games you're discussing here.
Inter and Shakhtar and Real and Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Okay, so that group has been... It was stopped for a while. Now It is
back on with number adjustments. The numbers for Inter and Shakhtar, for the most part, for Shakhtar, are north of plus 900. You've got a couple that are at plus 1,000. A new entrant into the bookmakingness.
What does that mean?
They're new to the gig, apparently, because this is one of the first times I have seen Cool Bet out of Canada.
Cool Bet?
They're new to the composite. And they are at the low end of the scale. They have...
It's not how you come in with a bang, Cool Bet.
Minus 312 for Inter, plus 775 for Shakhtar Donetsk. And the draw is at plus 530. They're at the low end of the scale, along with Bet World when it comes to Shakhtar. They are the only two that are under 800, and they are well below plus 800.
Cool Bet looks like they have a polar bear logo,
and
it says "Stay Cool."
Yep.
And they also say that they are the most transparent. That seems to be their tagline. The most transparent sports book with the best odds and world-class customer service. There you go.
Okay.
They're in Canada. Yeah. I think they might come to the U.S. at some point. I did see a potential link there, which everybody will want to try to do that at some point. Cool bet. We now have numbers on. Good times.
Yeah. And all of the circuit breakers have been pulled off for Real Madrid and Borussia Mönchengladbach as well. North End for Borussia Mönchengladbach, you can get them at plus 500. The highest number for Real Madrid is a minus 175. And as I say that, one of the circuit breakers has just kicked in for one of the bookmakers, and the numbers have changed again in the composite. So this is madness. Avoid both of these games today, period.
Draws. They're going to be draws.
Draws.
They're going to be draws. Mazzano wonders if anybody else is singing the Cool Whip theme when you hear Cool Bet.
I was thinking, what is what's the Go-Go's song? There's a Go-Go's song. It's not. Is it Cool Jerk?
That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I was waiting to see where you were going to go.
And then there was Cool Town or something like that. There's another '80s tune that's like that.
It is Cool Jerk by the Go-Go's. Okay. I don't remember Cool Town. You'd have to look that one up for me.
I will. Tofka's in on the Twitters this morning. We got a couple from Tofka this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And first question, you can carry this over to Mike for stoppage time.
Okay.
Because he's requesting it, and since we didn't get to ask Mike on our air, how would y'all feel about a soccer version of the Globetrotters? So many trickster soccer players out there in non-COVID times, they could travel around to MLS Stadium and be a pregame match for MLS fixtures.
You'd have to do it with Legends, or you would just do the freestyle folks that do it. I know Red Bull has a freestyle team. They actually were here in Atlanta for. They have a freestyle World Championship, and it's. The freestyle that Red Bull does is pretty cool, actually. It's almost like a breakdancing battle. The format they do is you have two people pair up, they do a battle, you do tricks on the ball juggling, and then you pass it to the other person. They do tricks. You have a time limit. You have judges who judge who won the battle. It's pretty cool. But they have a freestyle team that I know does stuff at Red Bull Arena, but they travel around as well. They came to one of the sites for soccer in the streets and played in the futsal game, but also did, some freestyle, taught some tricks, stuff like that. I don't know if you do it in Globetrotter style where they actually play before a game, but if you did some more freestyle stuff with the tricks, yeah, it's something you could add to game day experiences from time to time. It's pretty cool. I would go more with the soccer tennis because I'm all on board with that. I think that could be a lot of fun.
That'd be great.
But the freestyle stuff is pretty interesting to me because there's no way I could ever do any of it. I could juggle pretty well, but I wasn't doing a whole bunch of tricks while I was juggling.
No, and I can't, so I'm not.
Yeah, there you go.
Nathan Pugh, when we talked about match compression with Mike, pulled another calf, hamstring, and oblique.
Basically, that's got to be part of the conversation. And I know the financials. I know this whole fear about the force majeure clause. Look, you got to stop being afraid of it. They might have to do it, period, because they might not be able to pay people. That's real. They laid off 20% of the league office. They didn't lay off 20% of the player base. They didn't lay off 20% of anything else. They laid off 20% of the league office. So this idea about it would be the meanest thing ever to invoke the force majeure clause, they might have to. Barcelona can't make their payroll.
Yeah.
We got to stop with this thing. MLS is a bunch of big meanies. No, they might literally have to. So you've got to balance the scheduling with the idea of not getting people hurt. So if that means they have to play a longer calendar year and play games behind closed doors or with limited fans and take the pay hit with that and maybe have to push that on to a payroll deduction with the players for a period of time, that's the world we're in right now. And stop being unrealistic about it. I mean, to the point that I'm seeing people complain about teams trying to sell season tickets for next year. What are they supposed to do? In Scotland, Aberdeen talked about how We need to sell season tickets. We don't know what it's going to look like for people in the stands next year. This was at the end of last season where they didn't get to finish it. But we are in a bad situation, and we need your support and your help. And people stepped up knowing they might not see a game all year, knowing that the club would make it good to them. They knew it was a matter of survival. We saw that all over the EFL. The EFL's talked about one of the reasons they've been able to deal with this is people buying season tickets, knowing that they wouldn't be able to actually attend all of the games yet, and not knowing when that would be. Here, we're flipping it to the other point. It's like the league can't talk about pay cuts, can't talk about force majeure, can't talk about, they can't sell season tickets. Like, do you want them to have potentially go out of business? I don't. Like, this is the world we're in. Why is it that MLS is a bunch of bad guys and Aberdeen is not, and it's actually celebrated that their fans, their supporters, stepped up to support the club? It's a difference in mentality in the way we look at the game, but the reality is every sports entity is losing catastrophic amounts of money. Period. The fact that we haven't seen as many clubs and teams and leagues go out of business is incredibly impressive. We still might. The damage of this is not going to go away the day the first game fans are back in the stands. This is going to be felt for a while. It's not some blip. It's a big, big deal. We've got to change that mentality here. We've got to flip that around. I don't know who's calling you now. Is it Cool Bet?
Yeah, they probably are. I mean, you could be Liga and Ligue 2 right now. You honestly could, where they have a rights holder for a TV deal who is basic, and this was like 1.2 billion euro for this TV deal. This rights holder has basically said, nah, we can't pay it. You could have, because of that revenue that is lost in France, you could have teams in the top two divisions of French football go away because of the reliance on TV revenues when it comes to that league. This is what we're facing worldwide. Yes, France is dealing with that situation, and it is dire on a bunch of different fronts, especially with that gap in revenue. People support their clubs as best they can. And that's what it's all about. It's about being a supporter. And if it's like being at Aberdeen, and Aberdeen comes and says, look, we need your assistance as a supporter to make sure that we can still continue to do as best we can in this current environment. Swansea City, we talked about them last week with the deal that they're putting on the table for their season ticket holders, where it's £99 per seat next season per person. Those kinds of things to continue to get that support coming. It's these kinds of things that you're going to see across the board. So when a club in Major League Soccer sits there and says, hey, this is the kind of stuff that we're doing so we can continue to give you this product, and the league says these are things that, or the league has these options that might be a part of what 2021 might look like, it's part of where we are right now. Bottom line. Is part of where we are because folks want to hang around and they're doing everything that they can think of to hang around.
It's just a scary spot, and hopefully with that light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines and getting back to normal by the end of next year, and hopefully it's a lot sooner than the end of next year. Hopefully it is July. Hopefully it is August. That's kind of where things seem to be falling right now. That's still a long time away, and you're already dealing with the losses you had in 20. Now you're going to add another, maybe 6 months of big losses on top of that. As Garber said, there's nobody in the world who can deal with those kind of losses 2 years in a row. There's no league, there's no club, there's no nobody that will look the same. Can they survive? Yep. Does that mean that they look the same? No, because they're going to have to cut everything to survive. It's so difficult. I don't want to see any jobs lost, and we've already seen some lost on the front office side with MLS. We've seen some very talented people who've been there for a long time be let go. because the league's trying to keep the doors open. The league office is trying to maintain, some kind of stability, but they've had to let people go because of the financial effects of this. Some teams have had to lay people off. Luckily not too many, or at least it's not all that widely known if they have. You haven't seen a massive reduction in salaries and that kind of thing yet, but it will affect some of the deals that get done. I think it'll affect the free agency market. It will affect other things that happen. Luis Ortiz in Houston has given an update, and he said he's told Mauro Manotas was sold because the club wanted to maximize his transfer value before going into the last year of his contract, which makes total sense. The original plan last year was to transfer him in the summer, but the pandemic took that off the table. Tijuana approached the Dynamo. Club felt it was strong enough offer to make the transfer. That came from a Dynamo club spokesperson. I think both can be true. I think the offer was good enough, and also they needed to do it, and also he's going into the last year of his contract. So everything aligned. Everything lined up really well there. Steve, and it's a good point. I think MLS has done a pretty good job with this. I'd have to compare it to the other leagues to see where this falls. Steve says, you'd think leagues and teams would loudly join the mask up movement solely out of self-preservation. MLS was pretty out in front of that early on. It was not an accident that you saw players wearing masks going to training when those protocols were put into place. That was definitely by design. I think other leagues have too.
Just don't get me started on Justin Turner and the Dodgers.
Yeah, no, that's a person, though. That's not a league. And if he evaded security who was trying to keep him from doing it, then, what can you do? You're not going to beat him up. He's an idiot. There's just no way around that. But leagues, I think they've, at least in the soccer world, they've done a pretty good job. I'd have to look at every other team and how they've done it. What else we got on Twitter?
One more from Tafka, and then we are officially caught up on the day. Tafka is just as excited about this match as he was with Wales and Panama. Who's an Olympic team lock who can stake their claim as worthy of a first-team starting 11 who can make the 18? Because we have a ton of talent to consider these days, crazy as it is to realize.
I am looking today at Mark McKenzie for that Olympic team spot. I'm looking at what to expect out of him. I'm looking at Brendan Aronson. He needs to have a big day. Who else? Akinola, I'm looking at. Soto, I'm looking at because I would expect that he plays. Predicted 11 from Brian Sciaretta of American Soccer Now. Hamid, Araujo, Long, McKenzie, Vines, Yule, Aronson, Leggett, Mueller, Akinola, Paul Areola. So if that's true, I'm looking at McKenzie, I'm looking at Aronson, I'm looking at Akinola, I'm also looking at Vines. Those are the ones that I'm going to be focused in on. But that's what we have so far on the match tonight. It is at 7:30, and it is on ESPN News. It is also on the 2Day NA family of networks, I believe. You don't know.
Show me soccer.
Really? You just voice activated your remote to check this?
Yeah, because I can sit there and I can...
It's on 2Day NA. I already got it. I'm a lot faster. I don't need to talk to my remote control.
Well, I talk to my remote control.
It's on 2dayna.com. It's on 2Day USA TV. It's on Unimas. It's on ESPN News.
It's on 2Day NA according to my...
yes, it's on
according to my TV. So there you go.
Your TV's the same as everybody else's, John. The hamsters aren't controlling your TV. Good grief.
Hamsters are controlling my remotes, though, and my computers today.
Does the remote talk back to you, John?
No, but it does flash improper verbiage on my monitor and tell me that I said something that I didn't say, and then I have to yell at it.
So you're not speaking clearly enough.
I am trying to enunciate as best as I can. It just doesn't like the way that I enunciate.
Okay. Props to Creature Comforts, our friends. One of my favorite beers, the Classic City Lager. They tweeted out just a little bit ago, it said, in a year when needs are greater than ever, we are grateful for our generous partners like Atlanta United 2. For every corner kick this season, they made a donation to Get Comfortable, which is a program that Creature Comforts got started. Also, shout out, because they made a donation for this Get Comfortable program that Atlanta United 2 supported, and shout out to Abdoulaye Diop for stopping by to meet the nonprofit folks.
Nice.
So very, very cool.
Very, very cool.
Thank you for the Creature Comforts corner kicks.
Corner kicks, yes. All season long. And it's just Atlanta United 2 corner kicks. It was not for both teams.
Yes, that is true. Turner asked, what's the scheduling conflict to move the U.S. game to ESPN News tonight? I'm assuming college basketball. I'm assuming they were locked into contracts because this game came up kind of at the last minute.
Yeah, it's college hoops.
Okay. Are the hamsters controlling you, John? That's what people are asking.
At this rate, today, yeah, they are. Okay.
Do you know about anger management?
I know of the movie with Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler.
Okay. I'm going to clap back at Steve for bringing up the Kia hamsters into this, because I have a Kia and I love my Kia Soul, and everybody asks if I have the hamster car. So, yes, I'm not happy about that one, Steve. Thanks. Burns says, Brendan Aronson will be watching the Salzburg game today on Pins and Needles. If they go out, he will have switched to an inferior league. Accurate? I think they're going to the Europa League at a minimum, but it will be, along with everything else going on today, if Lokomotiv is pulling a result against Bayern, and that's a big if, Salzburg could get caught into a weird situation where they have to be more careful than they'd like to be, because they want Champions League. That's a big ask for them to beat Atleti, but they can't risk losing if Lokomotiv's getting a result.
Bounced completely.
Yes, that's a tough balancing act.
Oh, scoreboard watching, brother.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I agree with Ricky. The Kia Soul's got that base. That is accurate.
Yes, it does.
I've loved my Kia Soul.
Having traveled in said car, that base does exist. It is all about that base.
Oh, jeez.
No trouble.
What a plonker.
Accurate.
Ha!
Bruh.
Okay. Good update on Raul Jimenez. His father gave an update, and he's moving forward. He's out of the hospital. No consequences from the surgery that he had to have. Cracked skull. Matter of time before he starts with his physical rehabilitation. So things are moving forward in a very good direction for Raul Jimenez. Really, really good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Aberdeen has tweeted, and this is a pretty bold statement, but it's not a surprise if you've been following the situation. Dave Cormack has been very outspoken. Scottish government's not allowing fans back at Pittodrie. Not like what's going on in England, where you are getting limited numbers of fans right now. Aberdeen issued a statement on it. They said Scottish football and its fans are being treated unfairly. Aberdeen react to the Scottish government decision to refuse fans return entry to Pittodrie. They have reports showing, it says, this shows fans safer in stadiums than shops in levels 1 and 2 as per government guidance. There are no clinical reasons why fans continue to be locked out. Fans are being treated unfairly, and we want to know why. We have their backs on this, and we are not going to be fobbed off. That's pretty strong from Aberdeen.
Yeah.
They bring up some points. If you're allowing, and this is something that we talked about all summer. I mean, it was bizarre to be driving back from an empty stadium, outdoor stadium, especially with the twos, driving down the road and then driving by a bar/nightclub that was packed. It's like, wait a minute. People can't come to the outdoor place down the street, but they can come here and pack into a bar?
Yeah.
Like, does that really make any sense?
Oh.
It's tough, and that was a decision that Kennesaw and Atlanta United 2 and Atlanta United made about not having fans in. They didn't push that. But if other places are, it gets difficult to justify. It gets hard. It's frustrating. Like, you can't fix this stuff by doing this. Well, yes, you can pack the restaurant over here, you can pack the bar over here, but no, you can't do this, can't do that, you can do this, you can't do that. It's all over the map.
Yeah.
And as different ones have said, as the EFL was saying, it's like, well, You're not letting people go to museums and to theaters, and you're bailing them out. But you're not going to bail out football, but you're not going to allow people to go to the game. So, what?
Yeah.
What? It's just... anyway, so Aberdeen is very vocal on it. Keep this in mind, and I've only seen this from one person, and he is a very well-respected person who covers the game in Romania, Emanuel Rosu. He's worked for The Guardian, 442, World Soccer, et cetera, et cetera. He had reported it earlier. I was waiting to see if anything else came from it. He has just reiterated the referees, the Romanian referees from the match yesterday, the PSG Başakşehir match, the referees are insisting that they were called gypsies from the first minutes of the match, which is an insult to Romanians.
Right.
That has been confirmed to Rosu, the Romanian journalist, a few minutes ago. This is coming out in the last hour. They're claiming that the assistant coach for Başakşehir was calling them gypsies from the beginning. That's why when you hear the clip of the referee saying it's not possible to act this way, the fourth official or the AR, depending on who you think said what, it's not possible about them acting a certain way, and that's why they should have been sent off. That's what they say they're referring to. So this is just going to get more complicated. It doesn't justify the referee saying what he said. It does not. It doesn't give them a justification. It's still, you could have identified the person differently. You made a bad choice. There's no way around that, fourth official or AR. There's no way around that. That was an ignorant thing to do. But this could be the reason for the red card. That's the thing where this stuff gets out of whack. The Ragamuffin says the plot thickens. See, I don't think the plot thickens. I think this is a separate issue. This doesn't justify what the referee said or did. This would justify the red card, which I never questioned. And I don't know why there was talk about removing the red card, because the red card had some kind of reasoning behind it. It didn't have anything to do with this. So if the assistant coach was calling the Romanians gypsies, then yes, he should have been sent off, and he should be in big trouble for that. Mm-hmm. The fourth official or the AR, the referee crew as a whole, should be in trouble for what they did. It might be both.
Yeah.
That's the thing here.
Yeah.
So everybody could have some issues here, but keep that in mind. This is coming from Romania, from a very respected journalist. You don't judge followers as this is how they're respected, but 18.9 thousand followers. People know who Emanuel Rosu is, and he's got some pretty serious bylines behind him to back that up. So That's what is being reported. We'll keep an eye on that, as well as there might be more than one thing for UEFA to look at, because UEFA needs to look at all of this.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. What else we got? Anything else that you wanted to discuss?
Looking over your board. Real quick.
Yes.
Forge FC did not win at Marathon last night in Honduras. They will have a third opportunity.
That's what I was wondering. I thought there was one more chance.
Yeah. It's the Canadian Championship against Toronto FC.
Okay. So it's not okay. Now I got it. That's where I was confused. So they got another chance, but it has nothing to do with CONCACAF League. Got it.
Right. So they lost 1-0 last night, goal in the 18th minute in Honduras, and so they will have a third opportunity to qualify for CONCACAF Champions League if they beat Toronto FC in the Canadian Championship. So it's two chances in the last 2 weeks. Forge FC, in their second year of existence in Hamilton, Ontario, has not qualified for the next level in CONCACAF, but they do have a third chance to do it. It was late night. It was soccer after dark last night on FS2.
I couldn't finish it. I tried. I had to give it up at about early in the second half. The eyes could not stay open anymore.
Both.
Jason Nix, that was something I was wanting to discuss. Some reports out of South America have talked about how Liga MX is trying to get back into the Copa Libertadores. They were there before. Now they want to get back in. CONMEBOL's interested. Okay, it's not going to happen in 2021 because it's too quick. Could happen for 22. MLS would potentially be part of that, according to some of the reports. As we've said, it's going to come down to money. If CONMEBOL figures they can make more money by being in Mexico and the United States, which I think is accurate, they're going to find a way to do it. I am not of the mind with some in the MLS circles in that they should not do it. They should not do it because it's scary. They're really good. Yes, they are. But MLS teams can compete with, I think, most of the teams in the Libertadores. I think MLS teams can get to the knockout stage. I do. You look at the Libertadores and you look at the levels. Don't get distracted by Boca, Flamengo last year, River, the elite of the elite. Everybody else, like that's Club America, that's Monterrey, that's Tigres, that's that kind of level, which you're already dealing with in CONCACAF Champions League. The rest of the competition you can compete with. You can absolutely compete with. Bernd, we're not doing a 3-hour show. Man, we're not doing it. But, yes, you can compete with the others, I think. Go for it if you get the opportunity. Now, that's going to have a bunch of things to get into. Clayton Poss says, if they're a bunch of pitties, we will win. They're celebrating Pity Martinez on Argentine television all day today. Y'all don't understand Pity Martinez. I'm just saying. Some people have been really slanderous towards Pity Martinez. MLS, look, MLS can compete with Defensa y Justicia, who was in the group stage. They can compete with Libertad, who is in the knockout rounds. They can compete with a lot of clubs in this competition. Go back to the mid-2000s, before MLS was spending like they are. DC United was toe-to-toe with Universidad Católica in the Copa Sudamericana that they got invited to play in. Yeah, go for it. You're going to have to get creative with your scheduling. You're going to have to be very careful about how you handle the travel because it's substantial. But if you get the invite, you take it. Now, a question about the Canadian teams, you'll have to sort that out. I think what you will do, and this is off the cuff, my assumptions, the Mexican League will figure out qualification for Copa Libertadores from whatever teams get the chance to go. MLS will figure out qualification. It won't be CONMEBOL going through the U.S. Federation and the Canadian Federation like CONCACAF has to, because those federations aren't members of CONMEBOL. They can go straight to the league and say, you get 4 slots, or you get 2 slots, or you get 3 slots. This is what you get. You determine your 3 teams that are going to enter. We will see. It would be amazing if it happens. And again, like we just talked about earlier about MLS, 2021 will not be normal by any stretch. 2022 will not be normal from a calendar perspective because of the World Cup, but it will be more normal from a business perspective. You got to make up what you lost in 20 and 21. If you get a chance to either do an expanded competition with Liga MX that is yours, not CONCACAF's, yours, and or get an opportunity to play in Copa Libertadores, you take it. And if that's what drives the teams to spend more, to have bigger rosters, to be able to deal with that, I am all on board. I would love it, love it, love it. If you get a knockout quarterfinal with Atlanta and Boca, and first legs here in Atlanta, second legs at the La Bombonera, oh my gosh. Bernd already asked, would the radio station send us? Man, I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would be begging.
That is frequent flyer miles and hotel points.
No, it's not frequent flyer miles, John. It would probably be going with the team. That's how this stuff goes.
For me, it would.
Well, yeah, that's you. If you're doing that, you go for it. I would hopefully be traveling, and we would sort that out. But that's all way in the future. They've been really good to us with CONCACAF, and we've been able to travel to most of the games. The only one we didn't was against Motagua, and that was down to safety because of the layout of the stadium and how things were sorted out. We would have been separated from security, and that was not deemed to be safe. So it's an amazing opportunity if it happens. MLS should go for it. They need to think big. They don't need to be scared. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Turner asked if we'll be back on site for away games next year, and we have no idea. It's too early to know. If we are able to, we will. That's the impression that we have. That's the understanding we have, is that we will travel if we can. We just don't know if we can yet. And it might be something where we can't for a while and then we can later. I mean, there's just no way to know. It's too early, but they've been really good to us about that. It does give us a better product. It gives us a better broadcast, in my opinion. I'm okay doing it off a monitor now. It's better when we have at least like an all 22 kind of shot, which we don't always get. There's stuff that makes it hard. You have to adjust a little bit the way you call the game, but it can be done. I mean, BN and Goal TV and ESPN for Champions League back when they had it, that's how they called games, is off a monitor. So there are announcers who are very, very good at that. There are some who struggle with it. I think I've gotten better at it, but it's better to be there than to not be there. It's just, you get to see everything. U.S. men's national team match tonight is at capacity, according to Ricky Ricardo. I think that's 1,500 is what they've limited it to. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct. I think that is it. I know y'all are going to try to come up with one more thing to make us go 3 hours. We're not going to.
No, we're not going 3 hours.
It's not going to happen. John's very adamant about this.
No. Not today. There are days that might be 2 hours and 58 or 59 worthy. But not today. I mean, there are some. I mean, I will say this.
Oh, John, since you're the CONCACAF person, along with being a Euro snob, when is that Canadian Championship game going to happen?
Oh, hang on just a second.
I think it's January, is what I've seen.
Yeah, that was the date that I had thought it was going to be, was like just after the first of the year.
I think it's January.
It's I don't know why the third sticks in my head, but that was the date that I thought was there.
Diego Fagundes is out of contract in New England, 25 years old. He's been there forever because he signed very, very young. Kind of fell out of the team. I'd like to see him end up somewhere in the league potentially. I think Fagundes is a real talent, but he needed a change of scenery, that's for sure. Have you figured out where the Canadian Championship's going to be at what time? When?
Still efforting because it's listing it as a TBD, but I thought that it was supposed to be like January 3rd or something like that.
I don't know if it's had a date set, but I had heard January. Bart says, why does MLS not release next season's kits before the holiday gift buying season? Seems like a missed revenue opportunity. I agree. I've always wondered that. I don't get it. Abby reminds us about trivia next week.
Yes.
It is going to be... Wait a minute, Abby. I know I need to check the announcements. Maybe they moved the date on me. It wasn't supposed to be that day. But I think they actually did move the date.
I saw the 14th.
Yeah, we moved the date. So we'll have to adjust soccer over there next week. It'll be Monday the 14th, 7 o'clock. And there will be a guest. We are almost ready to announce one of the guests. We might have multiple guests. So there will be folks involved outside of just me lobbing questions at you, because sometimes people think I'm very mean and I come up with very difficult questions. So we're getting some reinforcements. All you got to do to participate is make a donation to Soccer in the Streets. Any donation, you get a link to play. It's fun. It's easy. We've got some limited edition, because they are handmade, masks.
Oh, wow.
Upcycled from Atlanta United Kits. It's a very cool program that Footy Masks put together out in Portland. So we've got those. We've got at least one for the winner, and we'll have a few for other trivia contests as we go. So Monday the 14th, make a donation to Soccer in the Streets. Abby put it into the Twitch Pitch chat. I've put it on Instagram. I've retweeted it. Soccer Streets has retweeted it. We'll continue to blast it out. Trying to raise money for the kids over at Soccer in the Streets to get this done. What else we got? I think that's about it today, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Everything is reporting. Even Canada Soccer is saying first quarter of 2021. Date, location, TBD, and consideration of club and league schedules.
All right. Yeah, set early 21. Ricky Ricardo's got the article, too. So I had heard January is what they were shooting for. I think they're pushing back the CONCACAF Champions League next year, maybe just a little bit. It's going to be interesting what MLS's season starts, because you do have CONCACAF to deal with for some teams. So some teams might have to start camp earlier. I don't know. They're all trying to figure it out as we go, and we shall see. So look out this afternoon. Look out for Atalanta's lineup to see what that looks like. Look out for the drama in the different groups involving Real Madrid's game, involving Red Bull Salzburg's game. Things could get very interesting with those groups. Keep an eye on all the MLS rumors, the DC coaching search. We'll update everything that happens before 2 o'clock on stoppage time. That'll be at facebook.com/929thegame. You can watch Mike and I talk through all of the MLS and U.S. men's national team kind of stuff there. We will not be back in the morning or Friday morning. I will be on 92.9 from 10 to 2. I am playing the role of Randy McMichael for a couple of days, hanging out with Andy Bunker. So 10 to 2 on 92.9. I'll be over there. I am forcing in some soccer conversation. We will have some of that. Andy likes to talk a little bit of soccer. He's a former soccer player, so we'll get into old school kits and stuff, and we'll have some fun with it. We'll talk about any soccer-related news. So no morning show Thursday, Friday. We will have an evening show those days. John will be with us for tomorrow's evening show. We'll have a production meeting right now, 6 o'clock.
6 on Thursday?
Yes.
I have to duck in and out because of my weekly visit to Sirius XM.
That's fine. You can do that.
So for that one segment, at the bottom of the hour after hour number 1, I got to go talk to Ryan Payton, then I'll be back. So 6 to 8.
Okay. I think everybody can live with that. We can make that work. So tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Friday, 6 o'clock. No John on Friday. He will be doing the high school football thing. We will be back for the power hour on Saturday morning as normal. So that's what's coming up. It's going to be a little hectic. Yes, I'm sorry. I will not be with you in the mornings, the next 2. You can listen to me on the radio.com app as well. And then we'll have soccer down here in the evenings. So it'll be a PM show instead of an AM show.
There you go.
All right. And I'll make sure my Postmates or Grubhub or whoever else I'm DoorDash or Uber Eats, I'll make sure they get here way before start time.
Come on. Deliver on time.
Yeah, and why don't you get rid of your stupid security system on your computer, too?
Yeah.
And get it one that actually works.
You ain't kidding.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, come on. All right, we'll be back later. Join us for stoppage time. We'll see you tomorrow evening. Thanks for hanging out. Mucha platiel.
Mucha platiel.